Standing up in McKinney, this is According to Callus, episode 507. It's coming to you on October the 12th, 2023, and wouldn't you know it, we're just beginning to enter primary season once again. And look, full disclosure, I received a copy of the 5-Star Plan 2024 at this point over a month ago. And silly me, I thought it was a reprint or, just a slightly revised version of the previous book. And then I started to kind of read through it and I'm like, Robert West here's upped his game. He's added a bunch more information in here. And, it's ironic because I didn't ask. Nobody to blame but myself. So I started kind of thumbing through it because I'm like, you know what? In the spirit of primary season, why not go back to the one guy who stood alone in 2022, basically, but 2021 as well, basically trying to find patriots to replace the politicians, right? His tagline is replacing politicians with patriots. So I thought, you know what? I need to go through a book today. I've already read the book. I'm just going to kind of do a brief recap and go on. Then I start reading through it and I'm like, this is a lot of newer material in here. Stephen, you silly man, you should have done your homework a little bit better before you planned your day out. Well, yeah, that's true. But here's what I'll tell you. I own this. So the original version of the 5-Star Plan I have my signed copy, and I would encourage you all, if you get an opportunity to invite Robert West out to a club that you run or that you participate with, I highly encourage you. He'll give you an inspirational story. He's going to give you the nuts and bolts of how to get things done, and he will help you make a difference. There are easily workable plans inside that, and to top it all off, there's been success. And as a matter of fact, in the first couple chapters, he went through some of the successes that have occurred when people actually took the time to get involved and to care about what was going on. Now, I would say that it's fair that Robert and I are not 100% in alignment. You know what, though? Don't care. Robert works his tail off. Robert and his wife have committed themselves to promoting these ideals and doing the job. And on everything that is important, if we're not in agreement, we're at least on the same page. And I'm happy to work with the guy. I'm happy to have him out and encourage you to do the same. So to that being said, I would highly encourage you to run out and buy the new version of the 5-Star Plan, which you can find at the5starplan.com. It's new for 2024. Okay? So now that I've given him the free promo here, the free press, let me just start with telling you that he kicks it off in memory of a couple of people, and he talks, and he's got it forward, if you will, and then he calls it the middle. And again, the guy's got a good sense of humor too. You got to keep that in mind. So he talks about Smith County. He talks about Cook County. He talks about Collin County. And I will tell you, I was kind of in the middle of what played out in Collin County. And the interesting thing to me is I was an early adopter. I was already on the same wavelength of what went on here. And it was only when these people showed up and they started to get involved and they started to take action that we saw the changes come about. So what I'm trying to tell you here, the important thing for you to keep in mind is that you're not going to instantly change everything. You're not going to expect what I would call is a overnight experience here, right? But what you are going to see is that everybody that's gotten involved, everybody that has taken the time to do the work, to put in the effort, does make a difference. Now, a lot of this has to go with, it's not whether you win or lose, it's whether you show up and make a difference. It's being involved. It's taking the time to invest. Now, the other thing I want to add here, and this is my personal thought on this. If you're going to go and do the work, if you're going to be involved, if you're going to take the effort to do what is necessary to win, you have to be willing to take the losses. You have to be willing to put in the hard work, right? They say that oftentimes that overnight success had 7 years of struggle that you never saw, 7 years of sweat and tears that you never saw, and then overnight they appear from nowhere to make a difference. Well, that very rarely happens. It's the work, it's the groundwork that's done ahead of time that lays the path for your future success. So as I look at what's played out and I look at the improvements that have happened across Texas, it's a very real situation now that when we have our own elected politicians dismissing our actions, dismissing the things that we're doing, it's because they're motivated, I would say, in part by fear and in part by disgust. You see, one of the things that should never be lost on you is these guys don't work for us. They make it clear they don't work for us. They show up and they do what they want to do for the people that are paying their bills. Now, we the people do have a lot of say in that, but money trumps more. It doesn't matter if you like it. It doesn't matter if you want to argue it. Money wins a lot. You overcome that by ground game. You overcome that by efforts. You overcome that by working with people and putting aside your bickering differences. And this is all stuff covered in his book, indirectly and more directly in other places. I want to tell you that, as a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement and as a member of the JBS, it's not about whether I agree 100% with everything that wants to be accomplished. I do approve wholeheartedly of Texas independence, in case you think I was backing down from that. No. But more importantly, I think that we should get our vote. We should have it put on the ballot. We should have the opportunity to be heard on that. The fact that they don't want us to even be able to discuss that, the fact that they poo-poo it and dismiss us and try and point us into a corner, just shows that they're fearful. Now, the JBS, for better or for worse, they have an interesting track record. More often than not, and quite a bit more often than not, the very things that they predicted or said were happening or spelled out is going to happen, they do. And it's very easy to use the CIA-inspired terms of conspiracy theorist. It's very easy to be dismissive that, going down the rabbit hole. And to be honest, sometimes I'm right there with you. It's like, oh man, really? But you know what? They almost always get it right. And I always wondered if it was that they're that smart or if it's just everybody else doesn't pay attention. It could be both. It could be. But I want to be involved with organizations that are making a difference. I want to be affiliated with people that care about what's happening. And again, this brings me back to Robert West. Robert West talks about, let me reference here, because he has a chapter where he talks about single issue groups. Let me see here. Where is it? Yeah. So page 111, I neglected to get the chapter number here. I'm going to, sorry guys. I apologize. Let's call it chapter 11. I think, chapter 11 talks about Texas. And he said, look, these people, they're all unified on this one thing. Why wouldn't you partner on them with some things that you agree with? Why wouldn't you work together to get the change that you want? And that's how I've always looked at everything that I'm involved with. I don't have to be in 100% agreement. Now, it would be nice, but it's not going to happen. I'm a political realist. I mean, I have to work at it. I have to remind myself I don't always get my preference. And sometimes I have to be willing to say, is that really violating my principles? Or is it just that I don't like it? Because if I'm not violating my principles, I just suck it up and move on. Now, I realize there are a lot of people that bristle at the idea of realists. They bristle at the idea of people that are more concerned about the practicality, right? But that's how things get done. You don't have to like it. You just need to understand the process. Now, again, Robert West takes the time to explain how you can make a difference at your executive committee. You can make a difference in your local party. You can make a difference in your local politics, if for no other reason by showing up and being involved. But there is such a thing of being tone deaf, not knowing your audience, right? Getting too far ahead of that parade, if you will. If a leader's 100 foot in front of the crowd, is he really leading? I don't know. I would guess not. So, as we rethink or revisit, more appropriately, the 5-star plan, as we're gearing up for the primary season, I would encourage you, go out and buy the book. It's not that expensive. The guy's certainly not going to get rich on selling the books. Go to the 5starplan.com. Go check out the book, right? And you know what? He gives a lot of content away for free. He writes tons of articles. He, for a while, even was doing a show where he puts all the stuff, talks about what's going on. And he's got a heart for Texas. He's got a heart for the people. We the people. And you should appreciate that. So what does this mean? Well, first of all, let's be clear. He didn't ask me to do this. I'm not getting paid by him. I wouldn't ask him for anything. I appreciate what he's done. I appreciate the effort and the changes that have occurred that he helped inspire. And that's what I want for you, my listeners. I want you to be inspired. I don't care if you were inspired by Ron Paul like I was. I don't care if you were inspired by Rand Paul or Ted Cruz or maybe, you know, you go all the way back to, let me see. I don't want to forget the guy's name. I just did. Doggone it. Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Maybe go back to Barry Goldwater. You're getting old now because I barely remember Goldwater, and I think he was out of politics by the time I was born. But again, the idea is whatever inspires you, get inspired and stay inspired. Be willing to take the losses. Be willing to take the setbacks. I look at somebody like Pat Buchanan. He hit his zenith in the Reagan administration, but he never went away. He's been highly influential and has more wisdom than probably anybody everybody in the Texas legislature crammed together probably at this point. But many people see him as a pariah. But again, you want to learn. You want to take it in. You want to be inspired. And you want to be able to fight the good fight. And you want to be able to make a difference. But you also have to realize that depending on where you live and where you're active, the community might not be with you. There's effort that needs to be put in. You have to sell it. You have to show it. You have to tell it. Whatever it is. We're talking about a representative republic, right? We want these people that we send to Austin or we send to DC or we send to City Hall to go there and represent us. And look out for the greater good. Look out for we the people, but also when you're looking out for we the people, you don't look to fleece 49% to benefit 51%. That's not the way America's supposed to work. That's not what we want. That's why we need patriots. And you patriots out there, and I'm with you, we need to realize that we're probably a minority. But we have to sell and show our advantages. We have to be able to tell the people why it's beneficial to support us, why our theories, why our policies, why our ideas are superior and better and benefit everybody. At some point, I'll get around to talking about some of the things that rolled out in the book 299 Days. And, it's a whole series of books. But one of the things they talk about is marketing. If you're not able to market your ideas effectively, if you're not able to let people know that there are options here, that there isn't only choice A and choice B. A lot of times there's a choice C or D or E or F that, quite frankly, might be better and might even be feasible where you live. But if you're never allowed to talk about it, or you're never allowed to consider it, what good is it? That's why marketing matters. That's why it makes a difference. You have to get it out. And again, none of that will happen if you just sit at home. None of that will change if you can't get off your butts and do something about it. Which again, big topic in the 5-star plan. So now that I've admitted my failure here, that I in fact have not read the new version of the book, right? I'm going to own it, and I'm going to be back probably next week because it shouldn't take me more than a couple days to read through it. But I want you, dear listener, to read the book, take the lessons out of it, and look at how it might be applied where you're at. That's one of the things that is most frustrating is I deal with a lot of people in Collin County that still think it's 1990. Or maybe they wish that it was still 2020. It's neither. It hasn't been 1990 for 30 years, and quite honestly, we're already way past 2020. The bell's been rung. Collin County is a whole nother ballgame here. All is not lost. It is not terrible. It just requires that we do our work. We show up and we be engaged and we be friendly and we be helpful and we do a good job of marketing our ideas and selling there's a better way. That comes to all of us. So again, being a realist, I will admit firsthand, and I'm going to say it one more time, I am very, very tired of the fighting amongst my own team. I grow weary of the efforts expended on trying to get people to quit squabbling. The enemy is not only at the gates, they're through the gates, metaphorically speaking, and to some degree, literally. We have to be prepared, and we have to show up to the fight, and we have to be able to wield the sword of truth accurately. We have to hold up the shield, right? And we got to remember the truth. I would be remiss if I don't fully admit that I believe this is a spiritual battle, but I know there's a whole lot of people that squirm over that. And honestly, I'm no charismatic, right? I'm not Pentecostal. I get rather uncomfortable when people talk in those terms. But if I'm going to continue to turn a blind eye to the entire possibility that this is a whole lot bigger than what I see, I'm not doing you or me any favors. As we go into this next cycle, we go into the battle, we need to remember that sometimes our allies, we need to keep our allies. They're not our friends, they're our allies. And our friends sometimes demote themselves to allies. And again, they're still allies. We're on the same team, but they haven't proven themselves worthy to be called friends. And sometimes you do have allies that do earn the title friends, and you need to reassess where you're at. You need to be willing to use that realism, right, that's involved there. You can't win if you're always fighting amongst yourselves. You can't win if you don't know who your enemy is. You can't win if you don't even know who's on your team. And you forget that these people are on your team. And you're too busy squabbling with your allies. That sneak attack comes. And yes, I know, I'm well aware. There's at least 2, if not 3 wars going on right here, right now. I get it. And what really concerns me is we're next. And what really concerns me is the people that should be in a position to do something about it are too busy bickering amongst themselves to be paying attention and to be aware and to be prepared. And I don't know how to fix that. But the one thing I do know is while we have time, while we while we're focused on the next goal, which is to win the next election cycle, which is to get us past the primaries, why not start with something simple? The basic plan to organize. We talked about organization when we were talking about rules for radical, right? That was one of the big things that came up is you have to be organized, you have to have a hierarchy, you have to have a plan, you have to work together, and you have to keep your people happy and motivated. None of that is contradicted by what Robert West talks about in his book. In fact, they're not mutually exclusive at all. But I would attest to you that a lot of the people that are involved politically, they're so set that they're right. They're so set that they're the smartest person in the room. They're so set that their feelings got hurt and they must make sure that everybody hears them, that they miss the big picture. There is a giant picture, the entirety of the forest, but they're focused on that tree right in front of them. They're focused on that dot right in front of them. They can't see anything else. And I want to caution all of you people that are listening to me right here, right now. If it's not you, you certainly know somebody that is guilty of this. I mean, I do. And I'm certain at some point or certain things in my life, I'm probably guilty of it myself. Because nobody is innocent and nobody is perfect. But if you will just focus on what can we change now? What difference can we make now? What incremental improvement is available to me right now? And each step forward brings you a little bit closer to your goal. So when we talk about unifying, when we talk about, mutual affirmation, sequential goals, that kind of thing. Yes, you have to remember that. Yes, that's important. Yes, it makes a difference. But you can't accomplish any of that if you're too busy chopping at your partner's legs, at your teammates' legs, because they might get there before you, or they might get something that you didn't get. It's so counterproductive. So as I reconsider, as I reflect on, the book, that's what's in my mind. Now I'm going to take the next week and I'm going to actually sit down and reread the new version of the book. I'm going to put in the effort that I probably should have put in before I started this episode. But again, almost everything can be dealt with a little bit of time, a little bit of thought, and then a whole lot of effort. So I'm asking you, please consider your next actions. Please remember who's on your team. Please remember we have common goals. Please act in a sense that you're not looking to get ahead at somebody else's expense. You're looking to get everybody ahead. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up just a tad early here. Show's a little later than I planned, so with that, I will see you on the other side.
Canceled by the big tech mafia, but inadvertently profiting from owning their stocks in a mutual fund or ETF? At Two Pillars, they believe that censorship is a form of violence and a business practice that does not promote human flourishing. In many cases, through their investigative screening process, they can help you divest from companies that are denying your God-given, inalienable right to speak freely. Hey, Patriots, Two Pillars believes it's time for conservatives to align their values and investments. Two Pillars is your place for impact investing in the parallel economy. Find out what's in your investment portfolio with a complimentary portfolio review. Contact them today to learn more. Call toll-free at 833-377-0051 or send an email to info@twopillarsam.com. That's info@twopillarsam.com. Get started today. Advisory services are offered through Jacob & Boaz Asset Management, LLC, doing business as Two Pillars Asset Management or Two Pillars. A registered investment advisor in the states of Texas and California. Two Pillars is not endorsed by any government agency and is not engaged in the practice of law or tax advice.